Aggro Crab's latest is an indie title that everyone had their eyes on, bringing together a unique idea of an expansive underwater adventure combined with the thrill and challenge of a Souls-like. Right as you boot up Another Crab's Treasure, you can see the personality oozing out of every orifice. Vibrant colors and whimsical design rooted in realism immediately draw you in and demand your attention. Come for the cute, stay for the Souls-like. Or maybe not, maybe just stay for the cute. But no matter what attracts you to Another Crab's Treasure, what is important is if it is a good game. Can Another Crab's Treasure swim past all of the clutter, or does it lead gamers to being a crabby mess?
Dude, this guy is a mother. Jesus Christ.
As soon as I started up Another Crab's Treasure, I was enamored. The main character, Krill the Hermit Crab, is immediately endearing and is surprisingly relatable. He is reserved, a homebody. Krill wants to live peacefully in the comfort of his own shell in the tide pools. That all changes when the loan shark attacks. The Duchess, of unknown quality, is requiring taxes to be paid on Krill's land. His home, better known as his beautiful shell, is then demanded as payment. Forced out of his shell, Krill rushes to retrieve his stolen home and return to his peaceful life. The story is actually decent and full of humor. It tries, and I think partially succeeds, at taking on larger topics like global warming and economic welfare. The world is littered with trash. Soda cans, old fishing nets, cereal boxes, and so much more that were dumped into the ocean are spread everywhere. Your fellow sea creatures are struggling as well. The economic climate is at an all-time low due to the corrupt businessmen who rule the world. What starts as just a fun tale to retrieve your shell quickly becomes a much deeper story about trying to alleviate the problems that your new community faces. While I enjoyed the story and the cast of fun and sometimes interesting characters, the story kept on going on and on and on. Eventually, it felt like they kept adding more to pad the length of the game rather than providing a stimulating story to tell. Looking back, it did start to leave a more negative view of the game for me. I won't give any spoilers, but I was frustrated by how the story unfolded. Regardless of how it ended, I think back to some wonderful moments that truly did make me smile and brought me closer to Krill and his friends. And lastly, please be sure to like puns, or at least be able to tolerate them. This game is filled to the brim with puns. I'm gonna be honest, they rule. The locations that you journey to throughout the story are splendid. One of the first main areas you are able to explore is the Sands Between. First and foremost, I love the name of this area as it is a creative take on the Lands Between from Elden Ring. The first time my crab feet landed in this expansive region, I took it all in. As I ran about, the sand kicked up behind me. Sandcastles with their buckets and shovels are strewn about. It's easy to tell that love and care was put into the creation of this world. This considerate nature is put into the other locations as well. You'll travel to the stereotypical spaces like a forest or a swamp, but they feel so fresh in the underwater locale. Forests are filled with seaweed rising from the seafloor. Swamps are made up of pollution from the overabundance of trash. You won't just explore the typical areas though. There are plenty of other locations that will keep you pushing to see more. I adore the style of this game, and the art direction is so strong. Going from location to location was a joy. The game's structure is linear. While some areas like the Sands Between are open and you are free to explore however you want, for the most part, you will be following a specific path with limited options for where you can go. This isn't a problem as small puzzles and simple platforming sections made me feel like I was going out on my own and choosing how I wanted to experience the adventure. There are occasional routes to go off the beaten path. I liked to see everything I could, but it wasn't always worth it, as my troubles could sometimes be rewarded with a semi-useless item. What really missed the mark in Another Crab's Treasure was the music. It's not memorable, and I couldn't tell you a single track that stood out. The ambient music is nice when exploring and does a decent job at evoking those questing feelings. Where the music really plays the wrong note is during the boss fights. I don't know if it was a potential glitch, but I had a couple fights where the music was just like I was running out in the world without a care. It was subdued, calm. I was knee deep in a big fight and there was no tension because the music was missing. Other fights did have that dramatic sound and that was better. But like I said, the music was relatively forgettable. Another Crab's Treasure is a Souls-like through and through. You have moon snail shells, which act as a bonfire. Heart kelps are your limited healing item that replenish each time you die or rest. Each enemy rewards microplastic, the in-game currency, which can be redeemed to level up specific stats or purchase items from the various vendors. In addition to that, you have a fork, which is your main weapon that can be upgraded linearly with a specific item. Gameplay is also typical of Souls-likes. Basic attacks come in two forms, light and heavy. Dodging is an effective defensive maneuver. Following current gaming trends, a parry is also an option, enabling you to deflect attacks with your shell. Stamina is an unlimited resource, and I love that. Having unlimited stamina meant panic dodging was always an option, and I probably used that a bit too much. It also meant that I could attack as much as I wanted, never worrying about needing to recover after each swing. Krill also has access to stowaways, which act as talismans that buff and interact with each other to heighten different styles of play. During my playthrough, I focused on attack to increase my overall damage and poise damage to help me stagger enemies more frequently. What really differentiates Another Crab's Treasure from other titles is the use of shells and what they add to the gameplay experience. Shells are finite resources with varying degrees of toughness. Once they take too much damage by blocking or ill-timed dodges, they break. Luckily, shells are scattered across the world and can be swapped out at any time. Each shell belongs in a weight class from light, medium, or heavy, and this impacts the dodge speed, distance, and recovery. Additionally, and this is the more interesting difference between shells, is that they have unique abilities. One shell can vastly improve defenses, another can create bubbles that hone in on enemies when they get near. Two of my favorites were the Party Hat, which had a close-range shotgun-like burst, and the Yakult, which when activated, regenerated health over a period of time. Finding a new shell was fun, and it was great to experiment with them for a time. Some abilities felt impactful, while others looked interesting, but ultimately failed to impress when testing out their ability. After a while, I found shells that I preferred, and only picked up others when in a perilous situation. Each shell ability costs a varying amount of magic, called umami, to use. Umami can be gained by dealing damage to enemies. This creates a fun dynamic as you need to engage and be aggressive in order to maintain usage of your shell's ability. Umami can also be used to activate powerful special abilities called adaptations. These are powerful moves that give Krill another option in battle. Occasionally, they can also interact with the environment as you explore. I thought that these moves were cool and impacted important fights. I probably didn't use them as much as I could, as I tried to save them for important moments or when I needed just that extra bit of damage to turn the tide of battle. They are also upgradable, giving them extremely cool buffs. For instance, one adaptation, called the Mantis Punch, when upgraded would give Krill a moment of invincibility as he teleported to an enemy for a massive attack. As a fan of Souls-like, I had a lot of fun playing, but there were also a lot of frustrations. It took me a while to understand the parry timings, it felt inconsistent, and I struggled to gain a grasp on when a parry needed to be triggered. I also felt as though the hitboxes were a bit rough. At times I would dodge and easily avoid the attacks. Other times, I was avoiding attacks but still managed to get nicked and take some damage. I experienced these frustrations a lot at the beginning, and they continued until a few hours in. Of course, this could be a skill issue, because as I progressed through the game, I started to be able to parry more consistently. However, I did still come across issues where it just didn't feel right, and in Souls-like, how it feels is extremely important. But while I did have issues with some of the game's mechanics, there were a lot of instances that I thoroughly enjoyed. Boss fights were challenging and exciting for the most part. They all had unique personalities and interesting kits. Each fight was memorable. Even though I remembered each one, that doesn't mean they were all great to fight. Several bosses were gimmicks and led to unsatisfying gameplay scenarios. A couple other bosses just weren't fun to fight. I know it is extremely difficult to create boss fights that challenge while also bringing about an enticing experience. Aggro Crab did a decent job. Some hit the mark and others fell flat, which seems about on par with most Souls-likes. Another Crab's Treasure is a good game that provides important commentary on the current world climate. It doesn't go into tremendous depth in that commentary, but can at least get a conversation started. That, along with a combat system that doesn't rock the boat in any crazy way, but has a solid understanding and foundation of the classic Souls-like formula, creates a semi-memorable journey through an underwater realm that you don't see often. Some gameplay frustrations and a pretty big miss with the music are definitely disappointments. The story kept the game going and it felt like it dragged on much longer than needed, so much so that after I beat the game, it almost spoiled the previous pieces of the adventure for me. But the unique shell system and powers, plus relatable characters, bind together a fun world filled with quips and laughs, all topped off by a solid gameplay experience. I would give Another Crab's Treasure a solid score of 80 out of 100. If you are a fan of Souls-likes, I would absolutely recommend it as it brings enough to the table to earn a seat at it. I would be less inclined to recommend this to gamers who don't enjoy Souls-likes as much. While it is less challenging than most, it does have the typical structure. The worlds and characters are potentially vibrant enough to push past that, but I don't think that would ring true for everyone. Looks like Another Crab's Treasure turned out to be a relatively tasty crab cake after all. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content that is on the way. Also, be sure to comment and let me know your thoughts and opinions on Another Crab's Treasure. Plus, I do stream on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, starting at 7 PM PST. So, if you're interested, we are currently playing through Elden Ring DLC Shadow of the Erdtree, and it's been a ton of fun. Come on by, hang out. Alright everyone, have a great day.